Have you checked the children? Your little Mesa.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Robert the Wolfman.
And we are here with a brand new review for you.
Yes.
Wow, I didn't realize that it was going to rhyme like that, but nonetheless, we are here to discuss, it's a movie that's got a little bit of lore behind it already. So this is the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that is debuting on Netflix. So a couple of things about this movie. It was produced and co-written by Fede Alvarez, who you know from, other big horror releases of recent years. And he took part in this film. It was made initially for a studio, but it was screened, supposedly, again, the story goes that it was screened for test audiences, and it did so poorly that they just sold it to Netflix instead. That's the lore. I don't know how much truth there is to it, but that's where I was, coming from going into this one. In the making of it, as you just discovered looking into it, they did switch directors at one point in the process. Yeah. So that's oftentimes not a great omen. More recent example would be...
It was in the first couple weeks
Solo.
of production, so it might have not hindered too much of it, but who knows?
You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Who never knows?
So, I mean, a movie like this isn't necessarily going to be in production for much more than probably 6 weeks. So, a couple weeks in production, that's still a good chunk of the production. But still, nonetheless, you're right. We don't know exactly how far into it was, whether it was 50% of the way, or 25% of the way, 75% of the way. We don't know. But what we're here to talk about is the final product that we are presented on Netflix. And we'll do this review like we do our normal reviews, talking about the overall thoughts, then the story, the acting, the effects, all that good stuff in turn. And I'll just start off by saying this is fresh off of watching it. Like, we just finished it about 10 minutes ago. So I'm processing kind of as we're talking a little bit.
Bear with us a little bit.
We're in a little bit of a time crunch today, so we got to make sure we get it done. But I will say that I actually found myself enjoying the film for the first 2/3 of it. And then the last third, it goes off the rails. Like, you happen to literally say, hey, how far into it are we? And I checked, and we were literally 2/3 in. And it's seriously at that point
is where
everything just kind of goes bad. And goes bad in that the story starts going a direction. Yeah, it's sloppy. And a majorly advertised plot point goes very little distance, which is just strange as far as the decision goes. We're not going to spoil anything here, but...
so we're having to dance around the words really carefully.
Yeah, exactly. So. But nonetheless, I enjoyed the first 2/3. I was not a fan of the last third, but I did enjoy the gore throughout. So that's where I landed.
I'm pretty much on the same boat as Cecil. I definitely enjoyed what they did with this movie and the tone that they took with it, and especially the brutality of the kills. That was my highlight of it. Obviously, with it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so you go in watching that movie for the kills. And they definitely had some cool, creative kills, especially our first one. I will definitely say that.
Well, allow me to retort.
Okay.
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre has no blood.
That's true.
They cut away from almost every single kill, except for Franklin, which they show, from the back, so you don't see any blood. But it became that very rapidly with part 2 and beyond.
It did and everything. Because it left it more on the psychological
Because this is a sequel to that one, though.
I get that.
Right? So again, as a setup, which we'll get to in the story, this is a sequel to the original, ignoring all the other films. But yeah, so it's way, way gorier than the one it's sequelizing.
Absolutely. And again, like I enjoyed most of it. There were some issues I had, especially with some story stuff in the first part of the film I felt didn't need to be there. And some plot points that should have been fleshed out a little bit more that were shown in the last quarter of the movie. Other than that, I enjoyed it. Yeah. I say we just roll off on to the next.
Yeah, so one of the things that was a little bit different about this one is it's one of the only Texas Chainsaw movies to not take place out on a farm in the country. So that is, I think that is a little bit of a difference that people are going to be on board for, or they're going to not appreciate. I felt Leatherface was a little out of place because it wasn't that setup. I will say that. The family is now in Harlow, as you can see, so not the original town from the original movie. And the setup, getting into the story, is this group of young entrepreneurs have purchased this little town in Harlow, Texas, and they intend to auction off parts of the town to a much younger demographic that are just looking to get out of the big city and start sort of a more
Hipsters.
rural life. You could say that.
They're hipsters.
But well, they're also influencers, so that's the thing. Like they're
trying to
they're
cancel,
just like us,
trying to cancel Leatherface.
Exactly. So and that part was literally in the second trailer that you missed. That I figured.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes, the trailer did ruin a lot of the moments in the film for me, but there was still extra moments that they didn't show that were still surprising. So I did appreciate it for that. The story, again, is this group of young entrepreneurs trying to auction off the rights to this town. When they get there, they find this house that still has people living in it, an older woman and a really big older son. And something happens to the older woman, and it sets off the son, who happens to be Leatherface, still existing, but kept at bay for a number of years at this point.
He's trying to be a good boy.
He has no longer any reason to be a good boy, and he is turned loose. It's him getting after people for the remainder of the film. And they do advertise in the trailer that Sally Hardesty, the only surviving woman from the first movie, is brought back into the fold 50 years later. She was hunting for them in the meantime, never successfully found them. She's become a very hardened, grizzled, as some people said, Sarah Connor. Some other people said Laurie Strode. It's that sort of character.
In all fairness, though, in a standard fist fight, she would have whooped the shit out of Laurie Strode.
She probably would have, honestly. She would have given Sarah Connor a run for her money.
It's very possible.
Sarah Connor in the most recent Terminator.
Okay, fair enough.
Because that's about age
If we're going,
appropriate.
I was thinking like T2.
It's
like
about no.
Like,
No,
woo,
it's about age
ass.
appropriate. But so she is brought into the fold a bit later than I anticipated.
That was one disappointment, I will say, with the story.
Not for me, honestly. I was worried that was going to be focused on too much because we just got that in Halloween 2018.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that wasn't the focus of it. But yeah, so that's the story, and what happens from there? What happens to these young folk? What happens with Sally? And how does it all resolve? Of course, being a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. And I appreciated the story is a little bit thin, but it's all it really needed to be for Leatherface to reemerge. And so on that level, it was fine. But again, the story choices they made in the final third was just not great for me.
I will agree. I will definitely agree on that part. One thing I did enjoy that they did with the story is they gave him almost like a little bit more of a backstory.
I agree.
For the time that's been missed in this 47 years. I would actually say probably some of the acting was a little bit highlighted, but some fell flat, I will at least say. A little bit of overacting. Our main girl, the younger sister of one of the influencers or whatever, I thought she shined the best.
Okay.
She definitely portrayed it a little bit better than some of the other ones, at least because of again, her backstory. Each character did kind of have a small little backstory that went along with them, which was nice, and they weren't just thrown in there. Hers was definitely the more of the heartbreaking of them.
Well, hers was really, to me, the only one they kind of focused on, but yeah, the acting was a mixed bag for me. I think some people were doing better than others, and I think some people were perhaps focused on when they perhaps shouldn't have been. But again, it was generally a mixed bag. No one really pulled me out of the movie, but some people were definitely more over the top than others with how they were making their choices. But again, some of that could come down to being confined by what the script said, you know? So they didn't really have much of a choice. However, still, the acting with those choices, that's what I'm stuck looking at. And yeah, it just was a mixed bag for me. But as far as the filmmaking goes, it's not really down and dirty, obviously, like the original one was a 74.
No, but it's got a very melancholy tone to it.
It does. It does have a melancholy tone. Because they literally shot in a ghost town, it feels oddly empty. and so a bit manufactured, as opposed to being run down but still having been lived in. You know what I mean?
Because the main focus is on that one street. And
Right,
a couple
literally just that one street. For the most part, they could all be facades except for a couple. But nonetheless, it all had a certain feel, and maybe again that's what's coming back to why I like the country ones, because you get that big, open, sprawling feel as opposed to the confined nature of this one road.
That's true, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's that you have all this open land, can you escape?
Not only that, but it gives him a feel of like he's in a neighborhood instead of out in the country, which felt weird to me again. But
well, I imagine,
I don't know.
Leatherface goes to Manhattan.
I mean, yeah, goes to at least a smaller city. But let's talk about the biggest thing again, and I think one of the most important things for, like you said earlier, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is the gore.
Yep.
The gore was outstanding. It was surprising from the first point, and you don't have to wait that long for it to start. It's not one of those, it's not a typical horror movie that starts off with a kill at the very beginning. So it's a matter of like, how long does it take to get to the gore? And it's not very long that it takes. So, and then you get a steady stream of it throughout from that point on. And again, that first bit of gore was very shocking and felt new, even though I think we've seen something like it before. Not enough times where it feels old at this point.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to think, like, especially with, again, going back to that first kill. I was trying to think where I'd maybe seen that kill before. It's still, it got me. It made me cringe.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely made me cringe. It's still like that scene in Stir of Echoes with the fingernail.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Still.
it does feel like
Oh,
it does,
God.
yeah. So they did the gore very, very well.
Absolutely.
If there was CG enhancements, then they were hidden very well. There was definitely a lot of practical gore. One practical gore aftermath thing was pretty rad too, where a dude is stuck staggering around.
Oh yeah, the reveal of what actually happened. Yeah.
So there's a lot of really cool stuff, and it keeps you like grimly interested if that's the kind of thing that you're okay with. If you actually want a really good story and really good acting, you might not get it here. But I mean, the story of the best Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies isn't always very thick either. So I think 2003 is my favorite, and then we go back to the originals and stuff like that. But I still think I like 3 or 4 of the others better than this one.
I can agree.
Yeah,
I can agree on that one. Especially the 2003 remake.
Yeah,
I
think that's the best.
Yeah,
personally.
I still go back to that one actually a little bit more than I do.
I like the beginning
or even
immediately after, and I even like Texas Chainsaw 3D that people make fun of all the time. I dig those movies.
That one I never got around to. It just didn't.
I've only seen it I think once all the way through, so I need to revisit. But the giant meat grinder was always very pleasing for me. I love that scene.
Fair enough. Okay.
But yeah, so gore for you.
The gore was phenomenal. There was definitely a lot of cringe moments. Like we're sitting on the couch and everything, just unnerving. It got to the point where I had that anxious feeling, and I enjoyed it because I don't really get that a lot of times with like horror movie kills now. I definitely liked it. One worthy rewatch for this movie is the gore and all the kills. Like there were some where you really were rooting for at least a couple characters, and just damn, they got messed up.
I actually kind of liked the ending. It was
satisfying.
They try and kind of mirror something, and they do it in definitely a raise the stakes kind of way. So I was a fan of that moment. The last third, not so much, but the last moment, yes. So
it was still slightly predictable, but it was still cool to watch. It was still cool.
2/3 of the movie was pleasing. 1/3 of the movie goes off the rails, but still maintains the gore factor. So, I mean, if I'm going to give it a ranking, we don't normally do that.
Are we doing it out of 5 or 10?
I'm going to do it on a grade school level. I would give this probably a C+ to a B-. That's where I'm landing on it. But anything B level and above is worth your time. So I do think it's worth at least one watch.
I could agree on that.
Especially since it's on Netflix.
Yeah, I can. Even
if you don't have Netflix, you spend $15 for 1 month, and you get it's the price of a movie, and you get all of the rest of Netflix to watch for that month.
Sure,
as well.
we might have to do a tier list again.
I don't think I've ever done a Texas Chainsaw
That's what I'm saying.
tier
We need
list.
to do another tier list for the folks.
Yeah, now we need to. Yeah.
So
I need to rewatch a lot of them then.
we always
That's
have
fine.
To do, we always have to do that.
They're a series I don't mind going back to be honest. But All right, guys. So I think that's going to do it for our thoughts on the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is going to drop the day that it's available on Netflix. So if you're watching this, you can watch this movie right now if you have Netflix. So go and check it out. Then come back and let us know what you thought of it. I'd be very curious to know what all of you guys think. Again, the lore said that it was not supposed to be a very good movie, but I enjoyed at least 2/3 of it. So you guys tell me, where did you land on it? I'm very curious to know what happens as far as that
It's a Texas Chainsaw movie.
Yeah,
like,
really is.
You're not looking for
and it's
like
not
Oscars
a terrible
and
one.
everything.
Yeah.
No, not at all. So. It was definitely more of the enjoyable ones that have been put out in the recent years.
Yeah, we have way better than 2017 Leatherface.
Okay.
I really didn't like that movie at all.
I think
it was so
that was like
boring.
the prequel one, right?
Yeah, that was like
I
the
didn't
origin.
watch that one.
That was just needlessly confusing as far as who's Leatherface and all this shit. This is way better than that. I can at least say that. And it does have the Fede Alvarez didn't shy away from stuff, so it does have
old
a little bit of his flavor. So yeah, let us know what you guys think once you've seen it. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to watch another video. I'll link to 3 different options at the end of this one if you want to check something else out. We've been reviewing a lot recently, and we just did a pretty popular trailer reaction too. So feel free to watch something else. If you want to become a patron, thank you to all of you patrons out there for supporting the channel. The link to that is in the description box. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird,
Robert the Wolfman.
and remember, stay scared.